Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November 8th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, another win. Absolutely amazing, obviously. 3 in a row now for Manny Diaz and the Hurricanes as they climb their way back into the ACC race, believe it or not. They are firmly in there now. And it's Florida State week. And I know Florida State's been struggling. Miami's been struggling this year. But Miami-Florida State week is always special in a lot of people's hearts. So I thought I would kick off this morning's show and give it a little bit of justice. So those that'll be making the trip to Doak Campbell this weekend will obviously hear the sounds of Miami, Florida State, will feel the history. And Matt, I think I got to believe you probably agree with me that even when seasons aren't going well, which we've seen in the past, this rivalry always manages to kind of take a little bit of a life of its own.
I mean, yes and no. Like, it's not the same rivalry it used to be. Like, it used to be fun to watch these games, you know? And, like, I don't know, man. Like, this is a weird game to me. Like, I thought we'd know in the Georgia Tech game. You know, we talked about it before the game. Like, to me, the Georgia Tech game was about Miami finally cementing that, hey, the culture is there, regardless whether it's from Manny Diaz or from the players. Like, they beat 2 top 20 teams, one on the road. They have a new quarterback who's looking great. And like, I thought Georgia Tech's a bad team. They should win easily. And then they have 3 turnovers in the first, whatever it was, 25 minutes. They were just very lackadaisical. The play calling was one of the worst I've seen. I mean, I love Rhett Lashley's scheme, but like these runs up the middle, I mean, we literally wrote an entire story after last season about how he's got to stop doing that and how we literally broke down and had clips of every team stopping it. And literally, when you watch Georgia Tech, it was almost funny. Like, a few seconds before the snap, they would literally move the defensive tackles right into the middle because they didn't want to run
exactly
up that
what
way.
we evaluated from last year. No question about that.
Everybody knows what he's doing. Everyone knows what he's doing. Literally, seconds before the snap, you see the defensive tackle smush into the middle, and they run the ball up the middle 5 straight times in the game on 3rd and 2 or less and 4th and 1, and not a single one was converted. Shocker.
0-5. Unbelievable. I think you got to qualify, though, when you're talking about the play calling, that you're talking about the short yardage play calling. Because overall, the offense had a great day. I mean, they had 563 yards of offense.
Georgia Tech's awful.
Terrible.
These defenses are awful. Listen, and this is what scares me about FSU, okay? Not that FSU is a good defense, but I think it's one of the better defenses, believe it or not, that Miami's going to see this year. And it's probably the best defense, in my opinion, just from analyzing what I've analyzed so far, that Tyler Van Dyke's going to have played. Believe it or not, like, and we've talked about the transfer portal, okay, but they got a couple of transfer portal kids on the defensive line and one in the secondary who are, like, saving this defense. Like, you know, I think they're still giving up 28 points a game, whatever, way better than last year's 35 or whatever. When last year's defense was just awful. But, like, they got a guy with, like, 8 sacks who transferred in. They got another guy with 4.5 sacks who's a tackle who's making plays. Both have, like, I think they've combined for, like, close to 20 tackles for loss. The secondary hasn't been great, but they have some playmakers there that aren't bad. And, like, to me, it's a matchup that worries me because when you see an FSU offense that's not real good and an FSU defense that's good, it makes me think that Rhett Lashley, God bless him, is going to come out conservative again and say, hey, prove that you can beat our defense before I'm going to have my young quarterback drop back against these pretty good defensive linemen who could make a play against the secondary that's not awful. And, like, let's just wait and see. And, like, that's freaking me out because, like, I just can see it coming. I just know what Rhett Lashley does. And like I could just see Miami falling behind 14-3, something like that, because they're like not attacking on offense and because their defense isn't good enough to stop a below average offense. And like I hope that's not the case, because if it is, it's Miami fans will not be happy, And
You're not buying this Lashley stock this morning when the market opens.
I was shocked that listen.
I mean, look at the numbers that they've put up the last 3 weeks.
They played terrible defense.
I understand, but I mean, look at Tyler Van Dyke's performances.
Tyler Van Dyke's great. That's what I'm saying. Don't run the ball up the middle and between the tackles, and then when it's 3rd and 6, try to throw it. Like, do what you've done. I'm saying to Rhett Lashley, do what you've done. I just see him in previous games, knowing him how I know him, and knowing Manny Diaz how I know Manny Diaz. Like, they think their defense is better than it is for whatever stupid reason. And if you disagree with me, fine, but I can't imagine you'll disagree with me that when you look at this matchup and you know what Rhett Lashley and Manny Diaz have done in the past, that they probably don't come out thinking, hey, we're the underdog, we got to throw the ball and try to really get them on their heels. They think, hey, we're on the road. It's a decent defense compared to what we faced. Like, let's not go crazy. Their offense is pretty bad. We'll make some plays on defense, play a field position game, sort of get things settled, and then see where we go from there. Like, I could just see it happening so clearly based on how I've seen this team under Manny and the last 2 years. And, like, don't do it. Like, I know Rhett Lashley watches this every morning. Okay? I know Garen Justice watches it while he walks his dog. Like, don't do it. Do what you've done.
It's a tricky
streak. Don't stop what you're doing. Let Tyler Van Dyke win the game. He's a redshirt freshman or a second-year freshman, but he's got all the tools.
He's playing great.
Win this game. Do not trust your offensive line to get the offense going and win this game.
Yeah, he's playing great, but like many quarterbacks, obviously, when he's pressured, things do tend to break down a little bit.
He's been great against the blitz so far.
Yeah, but he when he struggles, it's usually when he's under pressure. Now, what he has done a great job of doing is throwing.
When he struggled is when they came out conservative against Virginia, and then this first half of the next game when he was nervous.
No, I'm totally with you in terms of
throwing the ball at all against the blitz.
I'm talking about from the Florida State standpoint. They're going to try to pressure him. I can't imagine them doing anything differently. And I agree that it's probably going to be a little more stress than what he's faced the last 3 weeks. And if you look at it objectively, Matt, and I'm keeping the glasses over here right now, because when I look at this objectively, I think it's going to be a really tough game up there at Doak Campbell. And I think that when you talk about a team that lost 6 straight Power 5 games like Miami did, now they've won 3 straight. Does it figure to continue to go as hunky-dory as it has? I mean, they've gotten 3 weeks in a row now. They've gotten the breaks that they weren't getting the previous 5 times they played Power 5 competition, and they've managed to come out ahead. But when you keep finding yourself in these situations, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
Look, here's what bothers me, okay? Not that it bothers me. I'm happy they're going to beat Duke. They're going to beat a very bad Virginia Tech team. Not very bad. Not as bad as Duke, but a bad Virginia Tech team that's going to have to play at Miami. They're going to win that game. This is it. This is the season. And like when I say what bothers me is that Manny Diaz probably has a better chance than not of finishing the season with 6 straight wins, which is great, okay, for Miami, period. But what bothers me is the way they win the games. It worries me that it's like the mirage of that Mark Richt 10-0 start.
It's exactly the same. Yeah.
They're beating average and bad teams barely. And you can make the argument they should have beat Georgia Tech by 24 plus points, which they should have if they don't have 3 turnovers, but they had 3 turnovers. It's part of the game. They're not taught correctly, whatever it is. The turnovers weren't all by one person. 3 different guys coughed the ball up because they weren't protecting the ball the way they were coached to do. Whatever the heck happens in practice that we don't see wasn't done correctly. Whatever it was that Georgia Tech saw on film, they were able to punch the ball out three times in 25 minutes, okay? So I don't say throw that out and they won the game by 24 points. No, it was a close game. And they easily could have lost at the end if not for the referees honestly helping Miami. That game probably goes to OT if those referees don't throw those 2 flags. And the defense had an inexplicable breakdown, totally inexcusable on that first down play where the guy's just totally wide open in the secondary. It's embarrassing. that quarterback on that team couldn't complete a pass more than 5 yards downfield.
He was hurt. He was the worst. I can't remember seeing a worse quarterback.
I mean, so look, they played all close games against all bad/average teams to me. 2 were in the top 20, but like those aren't great teams either, and they're just finding a way to play close with teams. They need to beat bad teams by a lot. It shouldn't be a close game. They have enough young talent, like we've talked about, like I've talked about. I know you don't think so, to really win games by 14 plus points every time they play Georgia Tech and Florida State and Duke and Virginia Tech. These should not be close games. And if these final 3 games, if they lose to Florida State or have a close game with FSU, they're not going to have a close game with Duke, but if they could have a close game with Virginia Tech, that's like a red flag. And when you see this many red flags, yeah, they're going to give Manny another year when he comes out potentially unscathed or finished 5-1. I could see it. But I'm telling you right now, like, it's not going to last. Like, you can't consistently have greatness winning by a very, very narrow margin in a very average talent of opponent pool. So something's going to have to change at some point, whether it's, Manny's assistants. There has to be some wholesale change at some point to me. I mean, I really thought this Georgia Tech game was going to be the coming out game where, hey, it really does look right. It's all together. And it's not. It's not. I admit it. I thought it was going to look a lot different than it did. I tell the way I see it, and the way I see it is, there's storm clouds on the horizon, and they may be gone, and it may not rain for a while and thunder for a while, but it's coming, man. And like when there's that many red flags, and you start to feel that breeze picking up, and you look up and you see that those dark clouds, it's not, it's not just your imagination. Fans are happy with wins, but when you're talking about big picture about the whole program, it's how you win, it's how they play, it's what's called, it's how they execute those calls. And like, there's just too many just things that I have a problem with right now on this team. And, I know people think the guy who called us a hater, he took it back. I'm not a hater. I just tell it how I think it is. And I want to see them win by a lot. And I thought they would against a Georgia Tech team that's not good. The quarterback can't pass the ball. Their defense is awful.
Well, they gave up 9 points.
I know what happened. I was there.
Turnovers. They turned the ball over 3 times.
They easily could have lost at the end of that game.
And played just bad enough on defense at times. And it was weird because it was like in spurts, but they made just enough mistakes on defense to let Georgia Tech stay in the game and hit enough key plays to score enough points to be there until the end.
Good teams don't do that. That's just
I agree.
A fact.
No argument. And I also agree with you that it doesn't hold up long term. And if it resurfaces on Saturday at Doak Campbell Stadium, then I don't think they're. Yeah, I think the number could be up.
But this season has now become a sample size of one game. We've seen the whole season now that this is an average team that is barely either getting by or barely losing. So now we have a sample size of one below average team at FSU, and then there's nobody left to play until a bowl game. Like, how do you decide on the future of the program?
They got to decide. They're going to have to decide what they want to be, Matt. It's very, very simple. I actually had this conversation yesterday with somebody who's really knowledgeable. And basically, Miami, as it now exists with Tyler Van Dyke, has probably risen from like a top 50, 60 team. Tyler Van Dyke has allowed them to move up probably 20 spots. They're probably now about a top 30 team as they sit here today. However, that said, if they played Alabama tomorrow again, would you feel any better about how they would do against Alabama? Probably not. Would they beat Michigan State tomorrow? Probably not. Go right down the list: Oregon, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. We can go on and on. Ole Miss, all these teams in the top 20 of college football right now. If Miami played them tomorrow, how would you feel about the game? And the answer would be you don't feel really good about it. And that's why, and man, like, to me, this is a way bigger issue than Manny. Manny's going to be fine no matter what happens. He's made a fortune. He's got plenty of money left on his contract and buyouts and stuff. Manny's never going to have to worry about anything for the rest of his life, whether he continues to coach or not coach. To me, the decision is this: can Manny take them to the next level? And is there any evidence of that whatsoever? And that's the decision that they're going to have to make, in my opinion, at the end of the season. I think they are primed to do that. I'm not saying what the decision's going to be, but I do think that these last several weeks that there's been enough conversation and enough debate about the entire thing that the decision makers at the university, I think, have a clear perspective on what they're facing. The question is, what are they going to do about it? And we're going to find out down the road. I would be shocked if they do nothing. Okay. I don't want to jump in now with 3 weeks left in the season and start making crazy predictions, but I would be stunned no matter what happens these last 3 games if they do nothing because of what I just said. Because yes, there's a ton of positives. Yes, there's a lot of young talent in the program. Things have turned around a little bit. They're winning the coin tosses, essentially, that they were losing the few weeks before. But this is far from a fixed program. A lot of the things that Matt just said are very legit, and they're just going to have to decide, what the next course of action is going to be at the end of the season.
Listen, here's the problem with your vague statement, okay?
Yeah.
We've seen, okay.
Well, I don't want to sit here and say they're going to replace Manny Diaz. I don't think that that's an absolute.
Correct. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. This is what I'm trying to say with your vague statement. What they consider fixing the program, and what we've seen over the years, is fixing. I like doing this. I can't ever get it in the screen. Fixing the program. There we go. Fixing the program. They consider that sometimes replace a couple of coaches, bring in a defensive coordinator. Like Manny Diaz is masterful at making things seem like the wound has been sutured and has been cleaned, and you can go on out and you're good to go, man. Like he did it remarkably after losing to FIU and Louisiana Tech. Like all of a sudden, oh my God, look what he did in the transfer portal. Oh my God, Ed Reed's got hired. Like, all these, I think that's when Rhett Ashley came in too, right? They're going to the spread offense or whatever it was. I can't remember, everything meshes together, but whatever it was, he sold the fan base that, hey, yeah, we lost to really bad teams, but we're going to be amazing next year. And like, it was just a mirage, more of the same, 7-6, like just an average team. And then, this past year, it's like every problem that Manny has, he's so in tune. And he works for ESPN. He knows how public perception works. He knows other coaches get fired at Miami because they don't pay attention to the outside. He says, don't listen to the outside, but believe me, he's listening to the outside because that's his job. If he doesn't listen to the outside, he's going to be fired. If he listens to the outside and understands, wow, these are why people want me fired, how can I figure out a way to make those people not be so upset? Then he has another contract year or maybe a new contract after that year is up or whatever it is. And like he's been masterful at it. So when you say these vague things like they're going to address it, like I could see Manny totally having a list of things based on the outside noise. Okay, we need a new defensive coordinator. We need a kick-ass recruiter, whatever. Like whatever it is, maybe a new head of football operations instead of Ed Reed, who's never there. Okay, now maybe we'll finally bring in like whatever, a guy who actually works in the building 24/7. And like everyone's gonna be like, okay, take a breath, give this a chance to work. It's gonna, we won the last 6 games last year. We got Tyler Van Dyke, and they might be right. We just need 5 or 6 players from the portal. Like look at the 2 defensive linemen FSU got that changed their defense around. We're this close.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, Matt. That like last year they lost Rousseau and Jalen Phillips, right? Oh, we're going to replace them in the portal. They replaced them with DeAndre Johnson. Okay, not even close, right? Now you got Rambo. Wait a minute. Now you got Rambo. You got Rambo, who I think you would agree has reinvigorated the offense, right? Now he's out. Okay, now you got to replace Rambo. Who's your number one?
You're missing the point. You're missing the point. You're missing the point.
What am I missing?
I'm not saying that the transfers they get are going to be great.
I'm agreeing with you. It's not sustainable.
That's not what I'm saying either.
Well, what the hell are you saying?
I'm saying that these fixes that you talk about, these vague fixes, are gonna look to the fans like they're gonna work, and they probably will not. Like I said, 25% chance this thing gets fixed under Manny. I still believe that's a decent number, only because of Tyler Van Dyke, by the way. And okay, but
wait a minute. This is what I'm getting at. This is what they got to look at. What they got to fix. Let's just take the offense. You got to find a new number 1 receiver. And maybe Keyshawn Smith can evolve into that kind of guy. Maybe Romello Brinson can. But when I look at those two guys, I don't see Charleston Rambo, who has evolved into that guy as the season's gone on this year. How about the offensive line, Matt? Jared Williams gone. Not that he's great, but he's a 2-year starter now at right tackle. Navon Donaldson gone. So that's 2 starters from the O-line that you're going to have to replace. So that's going to be a transitionary period. I don't believe they have those bodies on the team, really. I mean, I guess you can move Ja'Kai to guard and put Gaynor back at center or whatever. You can do that, but I'm not sure that makes you better. So they'll be looking in the portal for a lineman. They'll be looking in the portal possibly for a number 1 receiver. What if Jake Garcia bolts, which I don't think is out of the question. Jake Garcia has bolted everywhere he's been. If it's obvious to him that Tyler Van Dyke's going to be the quarterback next year, I mean, Florida and Florida State are both going to be looking for quarterbacks here in another month or 2. I would not be the least bit shocked if Jake Garcia, said, okay, Tyler's got this thing, I'm going upstate. I mean, would that surprise you? I'm sure you would say no. So there's so much that can happen this offseason. I think you look at on the defense, there's still not a real answer at tackle. There's not real answers at end. There's not real answers at linebacker. So are you looking in the portal for all of those things too? Next year is not certainly close to guaranteed to go well. And I don't know. I mean, I think if you're talking about those fixes, Matt, which you are, I think there's going to be a lot of fixes.
Look, I mean, COVID has caused a lot of seniors and super seniors to be at every program. Every program is going to lose quite a bit of talent this year. It's just the weird way these numbers have worked out. There's going to be an enormous amount of kids in the transfer portal, more than you can take. I have, you say it like it's an impossible task to take 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and a cornerback out of the transfer portal. I don't see why you can't evaluate that correctly. And by the way, how does Miami not have one dedicated, amazing employee who is only supposed to look at transfer portal kids? Every kid that comes to the transfer portal, analyze their film, see if he fits, and get on his ass and make sure he comes to Miami, or at least considers Miami. Like, how do you not have a dedicated person in that recruiting department where that's his only job? Because this team will live or die by the transfer portal next year if Manny Diaz returns, okay? If another coach comes in, he's going to bring a lot more immediate freshman talent, okay?
Probably the same. Like, you take a Mario Cristobal and put him in that job, I guarantee he's hitting the portal for O-lineman.
Portal, but he'll also bring in a lot of top 4-star guys, even maybe some 5-star guys.
I agree.
Like, those guys can play right away at Miami. Like, you see these guys who come in now, and they're ready to make impacts. I mean, Avante Williams, the 3 safeties, are all true. Well, Avante is a second-year freshman, but basically a true freshman considering how much time he was away from the program. And, like, these guys can play, man. Like, if you get a 4 or 5-star guy, they're just so much better a lot of times athletically. Like, they don't need the extra time in the weight room to get bigger, stronger, and faster. They're already there, man. And, like, you bring in a top coach who already has those guys from his previous recruiting place who want to come with him, all the more power to you. But listen, I still do believe that Manny can win next year just because, I don't think the schedule's so impossible. Clemson, Texas A&M, and then a bunch of coastal teams that are pretty easy. And you got Tyler Van Dyke, and you do need some pieces in the portal, but the young guys this year are good enough, man. And the receivers, I don't think you need a transfer portal top wide receiver. I know you say, oh, Rambo and Harley are gone, whatever. Like, I think Jacoby George looked as good as anybody. Smooth route runner, catches the ball amazingly, and they're not really using him yet, but he's going to be great. Trust me. He's got to get bigger and stronger. That's the problem with him. And then I think Xavier Restrepo is outstanding. That's 2 guys right there. And then plus you have the other 2 true freshmen who have already shown some stuff. Like, you have other receivers also that are playing. Keyshawn Smith's going to be in his 3rd year. He could be a number 1 guy. Like, I don't see receiver as this major need to fill the Rambo spot. Yeah, Rambo's great, but they'll be fine with or without him.
Rambo's solving a lot of problems for them, Matt. He really is. What do you have, 200 yards receiving the other day or something? Like, he's solving a lot.
There were other guys running free. I mean, there was one play where
210.
Yeah, there was a play where Mike Harley was 5 steps behind the whole defense. Just Tyler didn't see him. But I mean, there'll be guys who will be open all the time. I mean, this is a good receiver room. Just Rambo's that much better, but this is a good receiver room. I got no.
It's a very good receiver room. I'm just not sure, other than Rambo, there's a number 1 in there.
And Redding will be back from injury. Redding's not bad. I mean, they got guys.
I'm just not sure there's a number 1 receiver in there. I'm not sure there's a 200-yard reception yard game in that room.
You can succeed without it. I'm a firm believer of that.
They don't win the other day without Rambo's.
I agree.
200 yards, Matt.
I agree.
It's like you need a dude that can make the big plays, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. All right, so
I just think they're talented.
We'll keep talking about the roster next year. I mean, there's going to be so much to discuss in the coming weeks and months, obviously, with the transfer portal action and all that. But I agree with you. It's going to be all about the fixes and the spin and everything. And
the spin's what bothers me. That's like, just tell the truth. I mean, after the game, why are they talking about how they're so happy? And no, we played terrible. Like, if we keep doing this, we're going to lose to FSU.
They're kids.
They were tell like it is, man.
They were beaten up, man. They were beaten down, and they've won 3 in a row. They should be happy.
I mean, these fans, all 14 fans that were at the game, were cheering. Okay, it was more than 14, but these fans were cheering like crazy. Like, it was the greatest thing they ever saw, that Miami won this game by 3 points.
People are starved to feel that way.
I mean, it's just
people want their program back. They want to experience happiness and success.
I agree. And who doesn't want that? But, like, that's not it. Winning by 3 points against an awful ACC team that has a quarterback that can't complete a pass is not not worthy of cheering. I was in shock in the press box at how bad Miami looked. I couldn't believe that they weren't able to dominate that game. I mean, they should have moved the ball up and down the field the entire game.
They did. They had 563 yards of offense.
They should have had 1,000.
Think about it. But wait a minute. Time out. 3 turnovers, right?
3 turnovers and
5
turnovers on downs.
5 short yardage plays that failed.
Correct. 3 turnovers on downs. 3 turnovers on downs and 3 turnovers, and they should have had 1,000 yards.
Yes. So so those were what? Was it 3 fourth down plays that failed or 2? I'm trying to remember.
I think they punted after one of the third downs.
Yeah. So, but the point is, those were like turnovers, because if they make the yard, the drive continues. And like you said, they might have had 1,000 yards. So all that, and yes, that's why they only won.
And wasn't one of the 4th and 1s from like inside Miami territory at one point? Like,
near midfield, I think, from what I remember.
That's like desperation. That's like basically saying we're not sure we can win this game. you know, like, we're desperate. That's against Georgia Tech, like a bad team.
They were. I mean, that quarterback, like we said, was the worst we'd ever seen. All right, so. Now let's get positive, okay?
That was positive. That was me being positive. I'm positive.
I think there are some positives.
I'm positive Miami's an average team. That's what I'm positive about.
But there's a few other positives, and a lot of people are interested in recruiting. And I think that we have a story this morning on Chris Graves. And to me, he's the best defensive back recruit in the class right now. I like Kamari Rogers, but I really like Chris Graves. And it had been looking a few weeks back like he might be in the process of flipping to Florida. Florida's having its own problems. They're losing like Miami's. They're losing Miami style up in Gainesville. I think they've lost 5 straight games now to Power 5 or something like that. But they're struggling up there. And I think the Chris Graves to Gainesville chatter is dying down a little bit. And we're told, and we have a story about it this morning, that it looks like right now he is still all about Miami. So that's that's a positive.
Yeah. Let
me give out another positive, and then you can get, if you want to be negative.
Are you going to talk about Chris Graves again? Because that's what I'm going to talk about.
All right, go ahead.
Is it not Chris Graves? Your next positive?
Go ahead, Chris Graves. Go ahead.
All right. I just don't want. Listen, I talked to Chris Graves' coach. Okay. You can read the story for yourself. The coach seems, fairly confident that Chris will be with Miami, but the coach is not Chris Graves, right? I also, of course, have been reaching out to Chris Graves for the last few weeks, and he'd always been great. Always talked to us. We've met him several times in person.
Now he's not taking calls.
Always takes calls. All of a sudden, after that Florida visit, stopped taking calls. Stopped responding to texts.
It's never been a good sign.
So I did text him last night. We're going to run the story. I didn't tell him that I talked to his coach. I just texted him like, "Hey, Chris, you got a minute to talk? Let me know." It's Matt, whatever. He responds. I have it right in front of me. He says, "What's up?" WASSUP. I assume that's what's up. And I said, hey, Chris, just checking in. Do you plan to still be a Hurricane? Question mark. Guess what he responded?
Nothing.
Take a guess. Yeah, nothing. No response. Like literally, text me, what's up? I text him right away. No response. So like that concerns me because you and I have done this long enough, Gary, to know when that happens, there's like something weird going on.
It
And
rarely ends well.
I'm not saying he's going to wind up at Florida. I'm not going to say he's not going to be a Hurricane. I'm glad the coach seems to feel pretty good about Miami's chances of winding up with him. But, you know, some characters come into people's lives and get in their ears. I don't know who they are. You know, some of them I do, but not in this case. And, like, you just don't know, man. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's a good sign that Florida coaches have never talked to the kid's high school coach because, you know, if Florida was really high on a kid, thinks they're going to get the kid, they're going to want to make sure, like, this is the kid they want in their class. You know, numbers are tight, and you want to make sure a good character and check up with the coach. Just make sure everything's good. You know, you don't want the coach not to know the coaches he'll be playing for and things like that. So, you know, I have mixed feelings about it. I just want to make sure that people are on the same page, not that it's a done deal for Miami. I hope it is, but I just want to add that little color.
You want to temper the positivity that I was throwing into the show.
I just want to tell the truth. You know, I don't want it to be misrepresented. That's all I got.
I mean, I thought it was a positive that the coach thinks he's going to stick with Miami. So I'm taking that one as a positive. I'm not predicting how it's going to end. I agree with Matt that we don't like the smoke signals. You know, we've been through, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these rodeos. And usually when there's smoke signals like this, it doesn't end well, but we'll see what happens. You want to feel a little more positive? I'm going to throw out Shamar Stewart. Dropped his top 3. And amazing to me, knocked Ohio State out. They're not in it anymore. It's Texas A&M, who I believe is leading, and Georgia, who's right there. And
hey, you don't have to say you believe Texas A&M is leading. The source I talked to literally said Texas A&M is leading.
Yeah,
like they're leading.
No, I know they are.
But he changed his mind. Listen, he changes his mind so much. It wouldn't shock me if they get Shamar and Basaints at the end of the day. And Shamar's waiting until February, which is why I say that. If he was signing December, I don't think Miami gets him. But like, if they get both those kids, man, like that's a big difference. Those are kids who play from day one. And they have a chance. They have a chance to get both those kids, which would be amazing. And they have a chance to get Dante Anderson, and they have a chance also to get Daniel Lyons. Like, that's 3 pretty good defensive linemen and an amazing linebacker. And you're mentioning the portal. Like, that takes care of the portal right there to me. Like, boom. You know, that would be amazing. And just for the program, period, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good that Miami's in his top 3. And that means he's still thinking about it, which is good. I've got my own opinions on what would increase the likelihood of that, but you know, let's see.
I know your opinions.
Yeah, let's see how things play out here the next few weeks.
Listen, there is reasons. You know, Shamar. You know, I don't want to talk too much personal stuff, but there are reasons why Shamar and Wesley would want to stay at Miami. Basically, Miami has to show them why they shouldn't stay, which is why I feel good about, you know, the chances for both of them at the end of the day to being like, you know, I really think maybe it's best if I stay. So, you know, we have to wait and see. But there's a decent chance.
All right. Also, a recruiting story this morning on new offensive lineman recruit Jacarius Peak from Georgia. You've seen this pattern developing now. A lot of new offensive line recruits coming into the picture. Matt, I think you and I may agree on this. We're not totally crazy about it, but you know, we don't want to see them start reaching for guys. They've done this way too many times at the offensive line position. That is why that room is filled with guys that can't play. You know, if you can't don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. I would rather them go get loaners in the portal for a year than start recruiting Plan B kids on the offensive line. But maybe Jacarius Peak is a great eval. I haven't had a chance to watch this film yet. I don't know if you have, Matt, but we're seeing a pattern. This is, I think, the 3rd one now of offensive linemen coming out of nowhere and suddenly starting to be recruited. And, you know, I would just throw up the caution flag about, you know, doing really good evaluations at that position and not further filling the offensive line room with guys that can't play. Any thoughts on that, Matt?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Garin Justice as a coach. Not a fan of him as a recruiter. I mean,
Yeah.
we talked about this before. He calls recruits while he's walking his dogs, and that's about it. And like, you can't do that. You can't compete for top guys like the Malik Agbos of the world. It doesn't help when your team's losing, but you know what? You can make up for that if you have that great relationship with the kid, better than anybody else. Recruit a kid harder than anyone else. Miami does not recruit offensive linemen harder than anybody else, and it's a shame because they need offensive linemen so badly. I mean, if Tyler Van Dyke had a great offensive line in front of him over the next 2 or 3 years, like, they are set, man. I don't care how bad that defense is. And they just can't get the offensive linemen, and it's sad. Like,
you don't want them to look like North Carolina. North Carolina this year is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, when they scored 58 against they had to score 58 to beat Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you're right. I mean, they're reaching. It's like a program like Miami. I mean, when you look back at like some of the players that Miami used to get, like they used to get whoever they wanted, and their plan B guys were guys that every other top program wanted. And now like their plan B guys are guys that Vanderbilt wants, like I don't know. It bothers me.
Man, this Georgia Tech experience really had an effect on you, man.
This
Saturday has you all. You're pretty shaken.
I was convinced they were going to blow out Georgia Tech. I was convinced. I thought, based on what I'd seen and where the program was coming from and how Tyler Van Dyke looked, and just knowing how bad Georgia Tech is, I was convinced this was going to be it. Everything was going to be all roses and oranges, and not so much. I saw a lot that I did not like. Including the play calls. The offensive line, play calls. As many yards as Jalen Knighton had, there was just so many times where a bad defensive line was just blowing up plays, and it was all just Charleston Rambo, and just like it didn't look right. It just didn't look right on either side.
They did have 563 yards. I know the defense was not good.
Amazing? But... Isn't it amazing to get that many yards and it still didn't look right?
Yeah.
Did it look right to you?
Sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. I mean, I'm like you. I thought the short yardage play calls were just ridiculous. I mean, but now we have the perspective. Like, we broke that down. He did the same thing last season too, and almost every one of them failed. And we broke the whole thing down in the offseason. We even clipped the plays and put them in with our story. Like, he's got to get more creative on third down. You can't just keep running inside zone. It works sometimes. When down and distance situations, like Jalen Knighton has busted a few of those inside zone plays, but in short yardage, they are teeing off. They know what's coming, and they are stuffing that play every time. If he's run it, Matt, 15 times this season, I don't think he's converted more than one.
I mean, there was an interesting question asked to Manny Diaz, or not Manny Diaz, sorry, to Tyler Van Dyke after the game, which was, it had no context, but the question was, are you comfortable taking snaps under center? Which, yeah, he is, but they never practice it, but like, I don't understand why. Because I mean, to me, there's a reason why a lot of NFL teams like to have, snaps under center on running plays in particular, especially short yardage, because the running back not only has the ability to have a little better vision field, but he gets a little more momentum going before he gets the ball, and he can make a quicker cut after getting the ball. I mean, he basically has to stop for that split second and make sure he has the ball. And then he has to look again, sort of see where he's going to make sure.
Your offensive line better be engaging, dudes.
Correct. And like, I get it. Like, if you should win a game, you should be able to make 1 yard. If you don't make 1 yard, you don't deserve to win the game. I get it. But they're not good enough on the offensive line, and they're not good enough at a shotgun with these running backs running straight up the middle to get the yard. And until Rhett Lashley understands that, he's like a zebra. He can't change his stripes. Like, every defensive coordinator knows what he's going to do.
He's derailing himself. He's derailing himself. I mean, you have 563 yards of offense. You've done a pretty good job calling plays. But he would have had 663 if, he didn't botch up all the short yardage situations yesterday. So, we'll see what happens here as the season goes forward. All right, other things on the website this morning. We've got our By the Numbers, which is the Pro Football Focus breakdown of the game yesterday. And Matt, one thing that really jumped out at me was James Williams' grade. I mean, 36.5. Like, that is horrendous.
Just ask Manny Diaz. These numbers are all wrong.
I didn't realize. I'm assuming that they're not totally off, and I didn't realize that he had such a horrible game. I mean, he played 59 snaps to the naked eye. It didn't look like he was struggling to that kind of degree. But that is a just absolutely horrific grade. And Keontra Smith was worse. So I'm not sure, what was up there. Amari Carter, Cam Kinchens, their grades weren't much better. On the flip side, Avante Williams was at an elite level yesterday. Played 32 plays, did almost everything right. And the other one that really jumped out at me, Leonard Taylor had 14 snaps and graded out extremely high as well. So those are positives.
He had two and a half tackles for loss and 14 snaps. I mean, this guy's got to play a little more, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he's learning the playbook now, and they can start using him a little bit more. He was very good against Georgia Tech. All right, so we've got that. We've got our fifth quarter Q&A that I do every Sunday and Monday with our subscribers at CaneSport.com, answering questions, discussing a bunch of different issues. I personally think it's one of the better features of the week. You get a lot of insight into a lot of different things and a lot of exchange of ideas, I'll call it. All right, if you missed our game coverage over the weekend, that's all still on the website. Basketball season begins Tuesday night, and we continue our build up to that with an in-depth interview today with center Rodney Miller. And man, wait till you get a look at this kid. I mean, this is a kid that came in as an overweight high school player. It took him 3 years to lose all that weight, endless work. Then he gets hurt last year, gets even more serious about his training. And I mean, the kid is unrecognizable. He's so skinny now. And I'm going to be interested to see how that impacts how he moves on the floor. And if he still has the bulk to be a force on the boards, which is going to be a big thing for the basketball team this year. But I've been saying it, get behind this basketball team. They're going to be exciting. We continue the build up to the season with an interview today with Rodney Miller. So that's going to conclude it today for Good Morning CaneSport with myself and Groucho Shodell over here. But we'll be back tomorrow morning. And Matt, I'm sure we'll have something else to be upset about and negative about and
Hey, who's the one who always says that I think Miami's going to be fine with or without Manny next year? You're the one who says no. That's the truth.
I think next year there's a lot of fixes. I really do.
I know, but I'm the one optimistic they'll make them. You're like, no.
We'll see. Well, we got to see what they're able to get in the portal.
If I'm Groucho, you're Harpo.
That's to be determined and to be discussed on another day, because we've gone 42 minutes now, and I think everyone's done with their coffee. So we're going to say goodbye. We're going to say have a great day, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, and peace. You too, Shodell. Peace.